Guardian of the Natural Forest by Sharon Dorival. The fire died down to embers and the last of the stars faded from the sky. The girl rose to her feet, yawning, her eyelids heavy with sleep. She turned to the keeper, her eyes shining with determination. "I will not fail you," she said, her voice steady and true. "I will be the guardian you need, and I will make sure that the stories of this forest live on for all time." The keeper smiled, his wrinkled face creasing into a knowing grin. "I have no doubt of that, my child," he said, patting her shoulder gently. "Now why don't you get some rest? Tomorrow will be a long day, and there are many secrets of the forest yet to be revealed." With a final nod, the girl turned and disappeared into the trees, leaving the keeper to watch over the camp, his ancient eyes fixed on the stars. As she walked, the spirits of the forest whispered to her, guiding her steps and filling her heart with hope. She had found her purpose, and with it, a newfound sense of strength. The world might be full of darkness and doubt, but she would never stray far from the light of the forest, and she would never forget the lessons it had taught her. The sun rose above the treetops, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Birds sang their morning songs and squirrels chattered as they scurried up and down the trees, gathering breakfast for their families. The girl emerged from her shelter, yawning and stretching, the soft earth beneath her feet feeling more like home than any palace or city ever could. She knelt beside a nearby stream, cupping her hands to drink the cool, clear water, feeling its life-giving essence flow through her. As she stood, she felt a tug on her sleeve and turned to see a young fawn peering up at her, its big, trusting eyes filled with curiosity. "Good morning," she said softly, kneeling once more to be at its level. "What is it, little one?" The fawn hesitated, then took a tentative step forward, nuzzling her hand. "I had a terrible dream last night," it whispered, its voice barely audible over the rustling of the leaves. "A terrible dream of a place where the trees were dead and the animals had no home. I was so scared." The girl wrapped her arms around the fawn, holding it close, and felt its heartbeat slow as it leaned into her touch. "I know," she said gently, "but you are safe here. The forest will protect you, and I will protect the forest for as long as I live." The fawn looked up at her, its eyes shining with hope, and she knew that she had been chosen for this task, and she would not fail. The day passed in a blur of activity as the girl learned the ways of the forest and the secrets that it held. She spent hours exploring the winding paths, tracking animals and gathering herbs and berries. At night she sat by the fire, listening to the stories of the keeper and the other creatures, feeling their wisdom and strength flow through her like a river. And when the world beyond the trees threatened the sanctity of their home, she stood tall and fierce, ready to defend the forest and its creatures with every breath in her body. It began with a sound that didn't belong. The crack of branches, not from playful squirrels or a wandering boar, a noise that was heavy, deliberate, and cruel. The birds fell silent. The wind itself seemed to pause. The girl, now known throughout the forest as Ira, froze where she was gathering herbs near a moss-covered boulder. Her heart skipped. The fawn from the stream, now her constant companion, pressed against her side. Voices, low, gruff, and impatient. "Keep moving. Tracks are fresh. We'll have the stag before sunset." Ira crouched low, her senses sharpened by weeks in the wild. Through a gap in the underbrush, she saw them, 3 men clad in rough leather and iron-studded boots, crossbows slung across their backs, axes strapped to their sides. Hunters, but not the kind who took only what was needed. These men moved like they owned the earth they stepped on. Behind them trailed a cart laden with steel traps, oil jars, and hacked branches from earlier kills. Ira's blood ran cold. She ran, swift and silent, weaving through the trees with the fawn at her heels. The forest spirit stirred in warning. There were whispers in the leaves, ripples in the bark, a hawk's cry overhead. She reached the keeper's clearing, breathless. "They're here," she gasped. "Men with weapons. They mean to kill, to burn, to claim what isn't theirs." The keeper, seated beneath the ancient ash tree, opened his eyes, calm as ever. "Then it is time," he said. "Your test has come." Ira's fist clenched. "I can't fight them, not with weapons." "No," said the keeper, "but you do not need to. The forest chose you not for your strength, but for your spirit." The fire from the previous night had long gone cold, but Ira felt something awaken in her chest, a warmth that was bright and fierce. She nodded, turned, and walked alone into the path of the invaders. She found them setting a trap beneath a giant cedar. "Stop," she said, her voice ringing through the silence. The men whirled around, startled by the sight of a lone girl standing unarmed before them, her hair tangled with leaves, her feet bare and dusted with soil. She looked like something half wild, half divine. One of the men barked a laugh. "Out of the way, girl. This forest belongs to no one." "It belongs to all," Ira said, stepping forward. "And it remembers everything. The trees know your names now. The animals know your scent. If you harm anything here, the forest will not forget. But it will forgive if you leave now." The youngest of the hunters hesitated, shifting uncomfortably, but the leader scowled and raised his crossbow. "You think we're scared of fairy tales?" The wind rose suddenly into a howl like 1,000 voices crying out in unison. The ground trembled. From the undergrowth came glowing eyes, foxes, wolves, owls, bears, all silent and watching. The trees themselves groaned as if alive, leaning closer. But it was Ira who held their gaze. She walked straight up to the leader and placed her hand on the tip of his weapon. "Please," she whispered, "don't make us teach you the hard way. Just listen." The forest fell utterly silent, and the man, for reasons he could not name, lowered his weapon. Sweat ran down his temple. The purity in her voice had pierced something in him he thought long buried. The youngest of them turned to run. The others followed. By the time the sun had reached its zenith, the hunters were gone. Ira sank to her knees, tears falling silently as the fawn pressed close. The forest exhaled. Birds resumed their song. Leaves rustled in relief. Later that night, the keeper returned to the fire. Ira sat beside him, quiet but whole. "You did well," the keeper said. "I didn't fight," she whispered. "No," said the keeper. "You didn't need to. You reminded them of what they had forgotten, that this world is sacred, and so are those who protect it." From that day forward, the forest never feared again, not while Ira walked its paths. She became more than a guardian. She was a living story, one passed from spirit to stream, tree to child. And whenever the wind whispered through the trees, it carried her name like a prayer. Ira, the girl who protected with peace and turned back the darkness with the light of her spirit.